This video is over in class 36, which is the remainder and factor theorem. What we're going to do is we're going to find the answers to polynomials by finding a solution. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to review how to do synthetic division. So when you know an answer, that answer is actually what goes in the box. So 1 is in the box, and what we're going to do is we're going to divide it into this polynomial. So using synthetic division is the quickest. So the coefficients of x cubed minus 6x squared plus 11x minus 6 are 1, negative 6, 11, negative 6. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring down the first value. Okay, 1 comes down. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. 11 plus a negative 5 is 6. 6 times 1 is 6. This gives me 0. Now, if you are using a solution and you know it's a solution, you're not getting a remainder of 0 here. That means you didn't do something correctly. So here we're at now x squared minus 5x plus 6. And it says find the other factors. And the reason why we have to do that is because we want to work on finding all our solutions. So to factor this, when you get down to x squared, you can use either quadratic formula or you can just factor it. What's the factors of 6? That add up to be negative 5. This is 6, negative 5, negative 3, negative 2. So x minus 3 and x minus 2. So the other factors are x minus 3, x minus 2, and then going back to that x equals 1, that factor would be x minus 1 because it's the opposite of what you see. So what we're going to do is take that and go one step further. This is the depressed polynomial, and then we're going to find all the solutions. So this is review. To get us started for the video, though, we're going to actually just find solutions. So find zeros given solutions. So what we do is we go and take each one of these polynomials as long as they're equal to 0 and plug it in our calculator. So I'm going to take it and plug it in my calculator. So I'm going to hit y equals and type in x caret 3 plus 9x squared plus 6x minus 16. And then I'm going to go to graph. So you can do this one of two ways. You can find solutions by what you're crossing. I'm going to go double check my work. Okay, that's right. And look at my graph again. And I can't really see anything, but I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of these numbers. Now, the easiest way is just to calculate out a 0. Or you can go to your table and you can find one of the values of x where y is equal to 0. So I could choose negative 2. I could choose 1, and then if I can find any others, I could choose negative 8. So x equals all those solutions. That's 3 solutions here. Now, when it says find it and prove with division, I don't care how many you find, but you have to prove everything with division, meaning synthetic is quickest. So if I pick any of these answers, these are all x equals. It doesn't matter which one you start with. I'm going to start with negative 2. I'm going to do synthetic division with it. So my coefficients are the numbers I go across. So I have a 1, 1, 9, 6, negative 16. Now, since I found this as a solution on my calculator, it should come out to be 0 as my remainder. If it doesn't, I did something wrong. Bring down this first 1. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. 9 plus negative 2 is 7. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. 6 plus negative 14 is a negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 2 is a positive 16. Add those together, I get 0. Now, if we are to prove this with division, you either got to prove the other solutions or you can factor. When you get to an x squared, you should factor or use quadratic formula because it's not always going to work. So a lot of times what happens is we only give you where you can find 2 solutions. But as soon as you get to an x squared, you should, not that you should, you need to factor. And if you can't factor it, then you need to solve by another method. Okay, so factoring this, I get x, excuse me. 1 times negative 8 is negative 8, adds up to be 7, negative 8 or negative 1. In order for it to be a positive 7, 8 needs to be positive, so I have plus 8 and minus 1. So x plus 8 equals 0, x minus 1 equals 0, x equals negative 8, 1, and then from the original, you gotta write down that answer too, from your synthetic division, negative 2, and then those are your solutions. So I'm going to do that again, and I'm going to do that with the x to the 4th, okay? So on x to the 4th, plug that in my calculator. X to the 4th minus 6x cubed plus 9x squared plus 6x minus 10. And then I'm going to go second table. I'm going to find a 0. So I see I have negative 1 and I have a 1. Okay? So since it's x to the 4th and I have to get x squared, right now my solutions, I know I have x equals negative 1 and 1 because that comes from my table, but I still have to prove it with division. So I'm going to do synthetic division. So negative 1, I'm just going to go in the box. Coefficients, going across, 1, negative 6, 9, 6, negative 10. I'm going to drop these down. So bring 1 down. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 6 plus negative 1 is negative 7. Negative 7 times negative 1 is 7. Add these together and I get 16. 16 times negative 1 is a negative 16. I get negative 10. Negative 10 times negative 1 is 10. This gives me 0, which is great because that was one of my solutions. Now, what I'm going to do again is I've already done synthetic division with the first one. I'm going to do synthetic division again with the second one. So, taking my synthetic division, let me turn that light back off, and then bring down the first one. Okay, so I'm now at an x cubed. I'm going to bring down this 1. 1 times 1 is 1. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 6. Negative 6 times 1 is negative 6. Add those together, I get 10. 10 times 1 is 10. And I get 0. So now I'm at the rest of my answer. So this depressed polynomial divided twice, I'm at x squared. So I'm going to write down I have x squared minus 6x plus 10 equals 0. With this, the two scenarios you have is either this can be factored or it can't be factored. Apologize, my lights went out. So with that, the factors of 10 that add up to be negative 6, I have 10 and 1, which is 11 or 9, and 2 and 5, which is 7 or 3. So since that can't be factored, I'm going to use quadratic formula. I honestly just always use quadratic formula. Pomeroy chooses to do that. So it would be 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10 AC, all divisible by 2 times 1. So I'm going to get 6 plus or minus something over 2, and whatever the square root is, which I'm going to put in my calculator because I cannot do math today in my head. So negative 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10, and I get negative 4. So since that's negative 4, it's negative, so I know my answer is going to have an I in it. So I got 6 plus or minus, and the square root of 4, if you don't know it, is 2. 2i divisible by 2. This can simplify. Divisible by 2, 2, and 2, which leaves me with 3 plus or minus I. So my answers that I'm going to have to add up here is going to be 3 plus or minus I. Okay? So that's how you do depressed polynomials. Once again, I'm going to do another one just to show. So I'm going to do D. So I'm going to go to y equals, I'm going to plug in my calculator, 8x cubed plus 14x squared plus 11x plus 3. Go to second table, and I'm going to find where there's a 0. And I don't see one. Oh, that's not good. Y equals. So I'm going to go to graph. And I'm going to go calculate out that 0. Second calc, 0, 2. So I'm going to go left bound. I'm going to go right bound. And enter. And my 0 is at -1, -1/2. So x equals -1/2. Since this x equals 0 is a fraction, I cannot do synthetic division. So I could rewrite this as an answer of 2x plus 1 and do longhand division. 8x cubed plus 14x squared plus 11x plus 3, and do it that way. We are not going to ask you to do that. You should be able to do it by synthetic, but you could do it by longhand division. So what you do is you take your answer and you rewrite it as a binomial to make that happen. Alright, let's look at this one here. Go to y equals, so I'm going to change this out to 3x cubed minus 2x squared minus 8x plus 5. And I'm going to go to my table. Once again, I can't see anything on my table. So I'm going to go to a second calc. And I'm going to go calculate out my 0. And I see that these are all fractions. So second calc, 0, enter, enter, enter. That's not pretty. Let's see if I can calculate out one that is pretty. 0. I want to say these are all not pretty. Not pretty. Not pretty. That is a fraction though. That is 3/2. So I do have x equals 3/2. So x would give me a 2 minus 3. So I could do longhand division with that. Once again, we're not going to make you do that, so you just have to do it by synthetic. Your x numbers should be pretty numbers. You might have fractions in there, but they aren't always going to happen. So you should be able to find one answer, one solution that works by a nice, pretty number. Now, on your homework, there are some changes that you need to make, and I can't remember which ones they are. I want to say this one has to have a 2x. So number 4, I think that's supposed to be a 2x in there, but let me double check. So x cubed minus x squared minus 2x squared plus x minus 12. Yeah, so that needs to be a 2. So on your homework, this should be x cubed minus 2x squared plus x minus 12. And then the one down here on the bottom, this should not be there. So it should just be x cubed plus 125. Okay? So you're going to find all the zeros and prove with division.